This story is titled, "At My Dad's Funeral, My Brother Gave a Speech About Being the Strong One." Then turned to me and said, "At least I didn't run off to become a vegan yoga teacher." I just raised my glass and said, "You're right. You stayed and inherited his debt." 3 months later, he was living in my basement begging, "Please, Biro, I have nowhere else to go." You ever find yourself standing at your own father's funeral, wearing a suit that doesn't quite fit because you haven't worn anything with buttons since you swore off corporate life, and thinking, wow, even in death, Dad's still finding ways to make this about him? Yeah, that was me. Clutching a cheap glass of room temp white wine in one hand and holding back every ounce of generational trauma with the other. Let me back up. I'm Dylan, 34M, former software engineer turned yoga instructor turned black sheep of the family. I live in Asheville now because of course I do. I eat tofu, meditate before breakfast, and occasionally say things like, "Your energy feels off," without irony. My older brother is Brent, 38M. If you looked up LinkedIn personality disorder in the DSM, you'd see his smug little face grinning in a Patagonia vest. Brent stayed. Brent worked in our dad's real estate office. Brent married a woman who only responds to text messages with LinkedIn gifs and stock phrases like "circle back." Our dad, Jerry, ran that office like it was Wall Street, except with less cocaine and more expired coffee pots. He was the kind of man who called therapy quitting and told me once, "You're only as valuable as your ability to generate revenue." So naturally, when I quit my six-figure job, moved to the mountains, and started teaching downward dog to middle-aged women named Cheryl, he declared me dead to him. He still sent birthday cards, though. Not to me, just about me. He'd write things like, "Brent's still the only son I recognize," and hand it to my mother. Anyway, the funeral. Dad kicked it 3 months ago, sudden heart attack at the golf club. Brent organized the whole thing like it was a TED Talk. Matching suits, monogram tissues, valet parking. I flew in the night before in joggers and a canvas duffel bag that still smelled like eucalyptus oil. Brent looked at me like I'd walked into a country club with a meth pipe. He stood up at the pulpit and gave this speech. You know the kind. All about legacy, discipline, sacrifice. Somewhere between a eulogy and an employee of the month acceptance speech. Then, and I swear to God, he looked at me mid-sentence, he goes, "Some of us stayed, took care of things. Some of us didn't run off to become a vegan yoga teacher in a cabin in the woods." Cue awkward laughter. The kind people do when they think maybe this is a joke, but also maybe it's a public execution. I just raised my glass, because hell yes, I brought a glass of wine into a funeral and said, "You're right, Brent. You stayed. You also inherited his debt." The silence? Iconic. 3 months later, that same man, Mr. PowerPoint, was sleeping in my basement, wrapped in an old tie-dye blanket, whispering, "Please, bro, I have nowhere else to go." But we're not there yet. This is the story of how the golden boy cracked, how I became the one holding the damn flashlight while he fell apart, and how, somewhere along the way, I realized my dad never hated me for leaving. He hated me for escaping. The first time Brent called me after the funeral, I thought it was a butt dial. The man hadn't used his voice on me since 2018, when he told me I was burning bridges with a flamethrower made of kale. I didn't answer, obviously. Then came the texts. "Hey, can we talk? Not an emergency. Just want to catch up. I might be passing through NC next week." Passing through. Like Asheville was just a convenient rest stop between his spreadsheet empire and whatever overpriced whiskey bar he was currently networking in. I ignored him. Then, out of nowhere, he showed up at my studio. No warning, just walked in during my 7 a.m. restorative flow class, suede shoes, tailored jeans, and the haunted look of a man who hadn't slept in 3 weeks. "Do you have a minute?" he asked. I had 12. That's how long was left in the Savsana. We sat on the little bench outside next to the succulent garden I keep forgetting to water. Brent looked bad. Like aging tech bro meets failing actor on his third divorce. His tan had faded, his hair was doing something wildly unregulated, and he had this deep crease between his brows like he'd been clenching his whole personality. "I think I screwed up," he said, and I nearly laughed because understatement of the century. He launched into this half-confession, half-word vomit about inheriting Dad's business, discovering it was a financial dumpster fire, and now, wait for it, being sued by multiple clients because, surprise, surprise, Dad had been cooking the books like a line chef on speed. Turns out legacy is a hell of a lot heavier when you actually have to carry it. "I'm selling the house. Can't keep up with the mortgage. Rachel filed for separation. Says I've been emotionally unavailable since the wake." I blinked. "That's because you gave a TED Talk at our father's funeral, Brent." He had the audacity to look surprised. That night, he stayed at my place, which is really just a cabin with a meditation loft, some incense, and a futon that has seen things. He asked if I had a guest room. I pointed to the basement. To his credit, he didn't complain. Just stared at the ceiling for an hour while I made lentil soup and tried to remember if I had any alcohol that didn't come from fermented rice. "So, what do you do all day?" he finally asked, gesturing vaguely at my plant-filled life. "Stretch. Breathe. Occasionally cry with people who are trying to be better." He didn't respond, just nodded slowly like I was speaking an interpretive dance. The next morning, he followed me to class. Didn't participate, just sat in the back with a borrowed yoga mat and an expression that said I've hit bottom, and now I'm getting flexible about it. That's how it started. The fall of Brent the Bulletproof. By week 2, he was eating quinoa without gagging and offering to help with cleaning. By week 3, he admitted he was broke. Like, can't afford top ramen broke. And I, being the idiot with boundaries made of wet paper, let him stay. But even then, I knew he wasn't telling me everything. There was still something rotting beneath the surface, some secret he hadn't unwrapped yet. And I was going to find it. I just didn't expect it to come crawling up my stairs at 2 a.m. wearing one of my hoodies, muttering about a burner phone and a folder labeled confidential. Because Brent hadn't just inherited Dad's debt. He inherited Dad's skeletons. And those bastards had started rattling. Brent started talking in his sleep the third week he stayed with me. I'd be upstairs reading, pretending not to hear him muttering stuff like, "It wasn't my signature," and "She said it was handled." At first, I thought it was just stress dreams, like, you can't go from slinging real estate scams and loafers to meditating next to a salt lamp without some psychological fallout. But then came the night he screamed. Loud. Frantic. "They're going to take everything." I ran down barefoot, thinking maybe he was having a heart attack like Dad. Found him sitting bolt upright on the futon, drenched in sweat, gripping my decorative throw pillow like it owed him money. "You good?" I asked, already knowing he wasn't. He wouldn't look at me. Just muttered, "It's fine. Bad dream. Bullshit." 2 days later, I found a manila envelope under the futon. It was duct taped shut like Brent thought spies might come for it in the night. Inside, receipts, bank statements, email printouts, a burner phone, and a scribbled list of names. The kind of stuff you find in bad movies right before the protagonist ends up face down in a koi pond. I confronted him that night over chickpea curry. "Anything you want to share with the class?" I said, dropping the envelope on the table between us like a dirty bomb. He froze. "You went through my stuff?" "No." I tripped and accidentally opened a federal case file in my own damn basement. He looked like he wanted to fight me. Then cry. Then maybe vomit. I didn't know how deep it was, he said. "Dad, he wasn't just in debt. He was in bed with people. People who don't forget. They think I'm the cleanup crew." I stared at him. "Are you?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're just the idiot who walked into the fire in a 3-piece suit and then begged me for a juice cleanse when your eyebrows burned off." "Jesus, Dylan." "No. Don't Jesus, Dylan me. You humiliated me. At Dad's funeral. In front of everyone. You made a joke out of my life because I wasn't wearing a damn tie and didn't sell my soul for a paycheck." He slammed his fork down. "You left, man. You left me to deal with all of this. You got to escape. I got stuck cleaning up Dad's mess. No one told you to chain yourself to his rotting empire, Brent. That was you. You wanted the approval. You wanted the big man's attaboy. So bad you didn't notice he was dragging you down with him. That hit him. I saw it. The cracks had been forming for weeks, but now they spider-webbed across his whole face. He didn't say another word. Just stood up, walked outside into the night air, and sat on the front steps like a kicked dog. I let him stay out there. Let the cold mountain wind do what my words couldn't. Strip the layers of bullshit off him one by one. Because here's the truth he still wouldn't admit out loud. Brent didn't just inherit Dad's money problems. He inherited Dad's shame. And he had no clue what to do with it. You ever have one of those moments where someone you've known your entire life suddenly looks like a stranger? Like you're staring straight at their face, but all you see are shadows? That's how I felt watching Brent scrub dishes in my sink like he was trying to erase his sins with eco-friendly soap. He'd barely spoken to me in 2 days. After our blow-up, we'd established this weird ceasefire. Him retreating into silence, me pretending I didn't hear him pacing the basement at 3 a.m. like a man on the edge. My house was starting to feel like a pressure cooker. Except the only thing on the menu was secrets and barely contained panic. Then I found the second phone. He'd hidden it in the bag of extra yoga mats I keep for drop-ins. Rookie move. Wrapped in a sweatshirt that smelled like stale fear and bad decisions. I didn't unlock it. Didn't need to. Just walked down to the basement and dropped it on the futon like a gavel. "Second burner? You planning to sell enlightenment on the side?" He didn't even flinch. Just looked up with these dead eyes and said, "It's not mine." "Cool. So what? Someone broke into my house, crawled into your laundry pile, and stashed a phone like it's an Easter egg from hell. Silence. I leaned against the doorframe and crossed my arms. Is it drugs? Is it blackmail? Because I've seen enough Dateline to know when a guy's about to end up on a goddamn podcast. Still nothing. So I pressed. You said you were trying to clean up Dad's mess. That envelope under your futon? That was a mess. This, I pointed to the phone. This feels like a problem. You hiding from something or someone. He finally looked up at me. And what I saw in his eyes wasn't guilt. It was fear. Real, primal. There's someone watching me fear. He licked his lips and said, I think I'm being followed. I blinked. I'm sorry, what? I don't know who they are. I thought they were just clients of Dad's at first. People who lost money when everything collapsed. But it's not just angry calls anymore. They know where I live. They left a note inside my mailbox last week. No postage. Just inside. He stood up then, and I realized he'd lost weight. Not just a little, like I'm too stressed to eat weight loss. His collarbones were practically auditioning for attention. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to be mad. To tell him this was his circus, his monkeys, and I had my own life now. A peaceful, tofu-scented, incense-laced existence. But there he was. My brother. The golden boy turned ghost. What did the note say? I asked, already bracing myself. He looked down, voice low. It just said, we know where the money went. Do you? Chills. Real ones. Not the poetic kind. Actual, physical, someone just walked over my grave chills. I swallowed hard. Brent, did Dad steal from someone? He hesitated. That pause. That pause was a confession with punctuation. I think he was laundering money for someone, Brent said. And I think they think I'm still doing it. Silence stretched between us like a wire waiting to snap. I didn't know what scared me more, what my dad had done, or the fact that Brent might be lying through his teeth about doing it too. It started with a key. A small, brass, beat-up key Brent found taped to the back of a drawer in Dad's office files. Back when he was still trying to salvage the business, before the lawsuits, before the panic attacks. He didn't even know what it opened. Just shoved it in his wallet and forgot about it. Until last Tuesday. We were driving out to this storage unit Brent had suddenly remembered existed. One of Dad's overflow units. You know, because some people collect vinyl records and others collect IRS nightmares. Brent was jittery. He kept tapping the dash like it owed him money. I had one hand on the wheel, the other on a coffee I didn't remember buying. The air between us was thick with everything we hadn't said since we were kids. You remember when Dad used to make us box up his paperwork every January? I said, how we'd sit there while he barked about receipts and called it father-son bonding. Brent gave a dry laugh. Yeah, he paid me in expired vending machine candy. You got paid. He smirked. For a moment, it felt almost normal. Like maybe we weren't orbiting the smoking crater of our childhood. The unit was in some derelict part of town, row after row of rusting metal doors and broken motion lights. Brent's hand shook as he turned the key. Inside, paper. Just boxes and boxes of files, receipts, envelopes, old manila folders tied up with string. It smelled like dust, mildew, and regret. We went through the first 2 boxes in silence. Then Brent found the file. Client accounts, shell companies, offshore transfers. Jesus Christ, his voice cracked. He handed me the folder like it was radioactive. I flipped through the pages. Money moved between LLCs, shuffled like a deck of cards. Signatures that didn't match. Fake invoices. A whole ecosystem of financial fiction. And then the real kicker. One document labeled estate account, Brent J., dated 6 months before Dad died. The bastard wasn't just laundering money. He was doing it through accounts tied to Brent's name. You didn't know? I asked, voice low, because even in that stale, windowless room, the truth felt dangerous. Brent shook his head, eyes wide and glassy. I swear to God, Dylan, I didn't know. I thought he left me the business, not the fallout. I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to. That night, back at the cabin, I couldn't sleep. Brent was on the porch with a blanket, smoking one of my organic clove cigarettes like it might give him answers. I sat next to him, arms crossed, watching the stars do their thing like they didn't just witness our family legacy collapse. He was always like this, I said, making you his mirror, making me his mistake. Brent didn't respond right away, just stared at the treeling. He used to tell me I had to be strong for both of us, he finally said. That your softness made you unreliable, that I had to be the one who stayed. I looked at him then, really looked. The bags under his eyes, the years of pressure stamped into his spine. And suddenly I didn't hate him. I pitied him. I left, I said. But you were the one who got abandoned. He laughed, bitter and broken. And now I'm squatting in your basement, dodging calls from guys named Tony with blocked numbers. We both cracked up. Real, unhinged laughter. Because what else do you do when your dead father was a white-collar criminal? Your life is unraveling, and your only stability is a vegan yoga teacher with a homemade compost toilet. But then the laughter faded, and the silence returned, quieter this time. Softer. I'm sorry, Dylan, Brent said, staring at the stars. About the funeral. About everything. You didn't deserve that. No, I said. I didn't. But thanks. And for the first time in a decade, I didn't feel like an outsider in my own family. I felt like someone who survived it. The voicemail came at 5:42 a.m. I was halfway through my son's salutations, bleary-eyed and barely caffeinated, when I saw the missed call from Brent. 1 minute later, a single text. Don't be mad. It was the only way. I didn't get it at first. Thought maybe he'd finally snapped and run off to join some cryptic startup cult in Arizona. Wouldn't have been the strangest thing he's done. But then I saw the envelope on the kitchen table. My name. His handwriting. Inside, a flash drive, a signed confession, and a sticky note that just said, "They won't stop. I can't keep hiding. This is the only thing I can still control." Brent had gone to the police. On his own. No lawyer. No heads up. Just walked into the station with a folder full of financial records, a guilty conscience, and Dad's entire paper trail. By the time I called every number I could think of, it was too late. He was already being processed. They didn't cuff him like a criminal. They walked him in like a man who knew the game was over and was ready to cash in his final chips. I drove straight to the precinct, stormed past 2 confused clerks, and demanded to see him. They let me into the visitation room, probably because I looked insane, shirtless, still wearing yoga pants, hair tied up like a disheveled cult leader. He looked up when I came in, and for the first time since all this started, he looked calm. Not peaceful, just empty, like the panic had drained out of him and left nothing behind. I had to, he said. They were never going to leave me alone. Every email, every account, every fake invoice had my name on it. You could have told me. And then what? You'd offer to stretch it out of me in a meditation circle. I laughed, then punched the table so hard the guard flinched. You think this fixes anything? I said. You just handed them everything. What if they think you weren't on it? What if they pin the whole goddamn operation on you? He shrugged. Maybe I deserve it. No, Brent. You don't. Not like this. You were a pawn in Dad's scam. You didn't know. His jaw tensed. Doesn't matter. My name signed the paperwork. I cashed the checks. I made the calls. Maybe I didn't know everything, but I knew enough. I felt something crack inside me. I always thought I was the disappointment, the embarrassment who ran away from the family legacy. But Brent inherited the title, the business, the house, and now, the guilt. All of it. I spent the next week making calls. Hired a lawyer. Showed them the files, the emails, the timestamps proving he didn't know the full scope. I begged, bargained, tried everything I could to climb out of that sinking pit. But the gears of justice don't stop for heartbreak. The charges stuck. Money laundering. Wire fraud. Multiple counts. And because Dad was dead, and the LLCs were dissolved, and everything funneled through Brent's name, he became the fall guy. He didn't even fight it. The last time I saw him before sentencing, he looked more like our father than I ever remembered. Same hollow stare. Same exhausted smile. I'm not mad at you, I told him. I just wish you'd let me help before it came to this. He looked at me then, eyes wet but steady. You did help. You gave me somewhere to fall apart. Then he stood. The guard opened the door, and my brother, the strong one, the golden boy, the heir to our father's sins, walked away in handcuffs. It's been 6 months. 6 months since Brent turned himself in. 6 months since he walked into that courtroom, signed his name to a legacy he didn't build, and let them lock the door behind him. 6 months of calls, letters, a few visits where I pretended like I believed he'd get out on appeal. 6 months of me lying to both of us. And then last night, my phone rang. Unknown number. Correctional facility code. I answered on instinct. Mr. Walsh, a voice said. Flat. Professional. I already knew. There's no easy way to say this. Your brother. Brent was found unresponsive in his cell early this morning. He left a note. I'm so sorry. That was it. That was the moment the bottom gave out. I didn't say anything. I just hung up. Stood in my kitchen while the tea kettle screamed behind me like it was mourning for me, because I didn't make a sound. I just stared at the floor for 23 minutes until the whistle faded, and the water inside boiled into nothing. He's gone. Brent is fucking gone. And I didn't save him. I keep replaying our last visit. The way he smiled when he saw me, but it didn't touch his eyes. The way he said, I'm doing okay, like it was a line in a play he'd rehearsed too many times. I believed him. Or maybe I let myself believe him because it hurt less than the truth. I should have known. God, I should have known. I screamed in the woods today. Just went out behind the cabin and screamed until my throat shredded. I ripped up my stupid meditation mat, threw my incense holder through the window. I don't care. I don't care anymore. I have nothing left to hold this together. Not yoga. Not herbal tea. Not journaling. My brother is dead, and I can't even say it out loud without choking on it. He died with my father's sins wrapped around his neck like a noose. Dad did this. He built the fire. Brent walked into it, and now I'm left with the ashes. Just me. Alone. The soft one. The runaway. The fucking vegan yoga teacher who was supposed to be the failure, but I'm the one still breathing. And I hate it. I hate that Brent thought death was the only exit left. I hate that he inherited a war he didn't start and then blamed himself for losing. I hate that I can still hear Dad's voice in my head, saying things like, a man handles his problems. A man doesn't cry. A man provides. Fuck him. Fuck that man. He broke Brent. He made him carry the weight of a dynasty built on lies, and when it collapsed, he left my brother holding the bag and the guilt and the goddamn handcuffs. And Brent, he never knew how to be anything but what Dad built him to be, the strong one, the good one, the one who stayed. He stayed until it killed him. Now I'm sitting here writing this at the table we used to share for cereal as kids. My tea's cold. My hands won't stop shaking. I keep staring at the last photo we ever took, him in my hoodie, barefoot on the porch, holding a chipped mug of mushroom coffee and pretending like maybe things were going to get better. They didn't. And now there's no one left to fix it with. No apologies. No forgiveness. Just me, a kitchen full of silence, and a grief that feels like it's chewing through my lungs. I don't know how to keep going. I really don't. I keep waiting for something to change. For the grief to shift into something I can hold without it burning through my hands. For the silence to mean peace instead of absence. For the universe to hand me some kind of sign that says you're doing okay, even when everything still feels shattered. But mostly, nothing happens. I wake up. I breathe. I feed the dog Brent rescued from the shelter 2 years ago and left with me because you've got the space, and he's got too many opinions for an apartment. His name's Ollie. He still sleeps curled against the door like Brent might walk through it again if he waits long enough. Sometimes I think about selling the cabin, leaving Asheville, starting over somewhere no one knows my name or my family's wreckage. But I don't. Because this is where Brent landed when he fell. This is where I watched him unravel. This is where I still hear his voice when I make coffee and forget to rinse the mug. I didn't go to the funeral. I couldn't. I stood outside the cemetery in my truck and watched from the road while a stranger read a eulogy I couldn't stomach. Brent would have hated it, how clean it all was. How they skipped the messy parts. How they called him honorable and misunderstood like he was a character in a novel instead of a man who died choking on a legacy that wasn't his to bear. Some days I talk to him. Out loud, like a lunatic. I sit on the porch and say things like, I planted rosemary, or you were right, oat milk does suck, or I'm so fucking sorry I didn't stop you. I know he doesn't answer, but I still talk. Because if I stop talking, I'm afraid the silence will eat me alive. I went through his things last week. Took me 6 months to open the box the prison mailed back. There wasn't much. A few books. Some letters. A notebook with half-finished thoughts scrawled in the margins of pages. On one, he'd written, I wish I could go back to the porch. That night, when we laughed, I felt human then. I didn't know it would be the last time. Neither did I. And that's the thing no one tells you about death. About loss this deep. It's not just the person you grieve. It's the version of you that only existed with them. The inside jokes. The shared history. The arguments that only made sense because you knew where the wounds were buried. That version of me died too. Now I'm someone else. Someone quieter. Someone who carries ghosts like extra bones in his chest. I still teach yoga. Still stretch. Still tell other people how to breathe when they're falling apart. It feels like a lie some days. Like I'm selling calm when I haven't felt it in months. But then someone will exhale, tears will slip down their cheek mid-pose, and I'll remember. Sometimes, all you can do is keep going. Not healing. Not moving on. Just going. Because the world doesn't stop when your heart breaks. It just keeps spinning. And you either hold on, or you fall off. So I hold on. One breath at a time. 1 hour. 1 day. The house is quiet now. And I'm still here.